All right, everybody. Celtics avoid a 3-game losing streak with a 119-114 win on the road against the Miami Heat, thanks to the Anferno. Been trying to tell y'all. But we're gonna get into that today. We're talking everything about the Celtics, Heat, and what was a game that started lackluster, ended very electric. We're gonna get into it. Plus, it's trade season. A lot of rumors out there. So we're going to break down some of the juiciest ones that the Celtics are involved in here. We got all that and more coming up next for you here. This is Green with Envy live post game. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy, a Green with Envy post-game live. Celtics beat the Heat 119-114. As always, this is where Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me, as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Menakis. Greg, we rocking the Beanie Brothers look tonight. 119-114. I missed a hand up here just for the audience. We always like authenticity. We'll be transparent. Daughter was a little bit sick today. We got her to sleep. Took a little bit longer than usual. Didn't get to watch the first half, so I tuned in for the second half here. But Greg, a game that seemingly I watched a little bit on out of the side of my eye here during the first half that didn't really have a lot of energy. What an electric ending, and my God, do we got to talk about Anthony Simons?
Anthony Simons just did everything you could hope for as a Celtics fan. One, he proves that he belongs on this team, right? So if you decide to keep Anthony Simons as we head into trade season, you have a real piece, a 6th man of the year candidate, a guy that can score 39 points and carry your team on a night when nobody else had it. Secondly, if you do trade him, you just raised his trade value immensely with a game like this, and continuing to believe in him coming off the bench, getting him to buy into the system, the defense that this guy's playing, the block shot that he had where I think it was on Norm Powell, where he came back into the play and blocked them at the rim. There was other plays defensively where he's just like Johnny on the spot, getting rebounds, getting loose balls. Anthony Simons is starting to endear himself to not only you and I, but to entire Boston Celtics nation and potentially NBA trade suitors around the league.
Yeah, we'll talk more about what it does for that potential value when we get to the second half of this podcast, because that did cross my mind as well as we're watching this. And even Drew Carter touched on that at the very end of the broadcast. Technically, actually, I know the player you're talking about, Greg. They technically didn't give him a block on that. And as I was watching, it was a very emphatic, energetic, slap on the backboard. It was an unbelievable contest. It's worth a block, right? May not say it in the stat sheet, but that's worth a block. And I think the part that you touched on that really jumps out to me. There's two things with this Anthony Simons game that jump out to me. One is the defense, because like you said, he was making plays, not just, we've been saying all season, like, he hasn't been great on defense, but we have given him his props for just giving effort, right? Like, he's been working his ass off. And I think we've been pretty fair about like acknowledging that. It just isn't always great. Tonight, there was actual impact to it, right? Like, that block or non-block, whatever it was at a huge point in the game where where he was doing it on both ends. Like, to your point, he had a steal, but it felt like there's a couple deflections in there, got some loose balls. Like, he was really making an impact defensively, and that's something we haven't necessarily seen from Anthony Simons. So this was a two-way game from Anthony Simons. And I think the biggest thing for me, Greg, watching him in this game, so he goes 7 of 16 from 3. You tell me he has a 39-point game. I feel like Anthony Simons, probably 90% of the games this year, he's maxed out around two two-pointers per game. Just not a lot of twos coming from Anthony Simons. It's like a desperation long two, or he's really good at that, like, crazy hard, crazy difficult running to the side, almost like a floater, but he's kind of fading away. I don't even know what to call it, but it's really difficult. He does make that. But tonight, I think he really had a mixed bag. Like, he was in his bag, quite literally, with all the moves that he have. And I saw a different level of confidence that I don't think we've seen even in some of the other Anferno runs. Shout out to Drew Carter. Great drop. Anferno is phenomenal nickname. Even in some of the other Anfernos that we've seen. I think there was a different level of confidence and a different level of variation to the Anferno in this one.
Yeah, I think it started a little bit more off the ball, as the Celtics continue to try and look for him because he's such a knockdown shooter. Like I've said this in a couple text threads that we're a part of. Like he's the guy that I want to have like the wide open shot. I want the ball in his hands. Like when he's shooting an open three, I think it's going in. And the rest of the team is starting to like recognize that as well. As I mentioned on a couple pods ago, Jalen's always looking for him, is willing to defer to him, and he's not really willing to defer to a lot of other guys on the team. But
You
with
saw that at the
Anthony
end of the game
Simons,
today. Very, very noticeable when Anthony came looking for the ball, and Jalen, I think Jalen was surprised for a second. He's like, "Oh no, wait, no, you're cooking. Yeah, here, you take the ball."
yeah.
Kind of faded off to the wing.
Right. But to your point about him being a 3-level scorer, not only was it 3 levels, but it was also in the half court and in transition and semi transition, right? So the different levels that he's scoring at, but also the different opportunities that he's taking to get those buckets, and that little like sidestep, Euro step left to right with the little righty lay. I think he had 4 layups tonight. Like everything that he's doing on the court is what we hoped we were getting when we got Anthony Simons in the offseason. We were like, oh, he might be pound for pound the best scorer on the team. And then in the preseason, we were like, wait a minute, he can't even dribble. Right. Over the course of the year, he's figured out a way to deal with a little bit more ball pressure. The Celtics have not put him in as many positions to have to bring the ball up against full court pressure. It's not his strong suit. So much of what he does is off the hang dribble and off the threat of the shot, right? That's what gets him space. And when you're going 94 feet, you don't have the threat of the shot, right? So you can just play him for the dribble, and his handle's a little loose. When it goes to his left hand, it's a little loose. But when he's in the half court, and the moment he's within shooting range, which is right over half court for him, he is a problem. And the Celtics are figuring out how to utilize him. And Joe Mazzulla is finally allowing him to play his game. But Simons had to earn it because he had to gain Mazzulla's trust on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what we saw tonight.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about with him in semi-transition, right? Because I think you just give him a lane and he's very capable of getting downhill and making something happen. Like that's something that knows you just give. He's not great at necessarily just straight up man-to-man getting by guys, although he did do that a couple times. He had Hero on skates on one of the moves tonight. So he can do it, but it's not necessarily probably his strongest point. But if you give him just a little, he doesn't need much. Give him a little bit of an opening to get downhill. He can make it happen with whether it's stopping for a floater, it's getting into a step back, it's that Euro step that you talked about. And, I think you hit the biggest point for me as I was watching this game, just me personally, is I was like, okay, this is more along the lines. Of course, this is to the like a highest level of what we envisioned could be with Anthony Simons or what we were getting with Anthony Simons. But it was okay, cool. Jalen's 9 of 24 with 5 turnovers, and Jalen had some moments where he got himself kind of corrected, in this game. But it was up and down. Peyton Pritchard was a non-factor in this game. Derek White wasn't much of a factor. And really going into the season, we kind of expected the books on most nights to be Jaylen Brown as your leading scorer, Anthony Simons is your second leading scorer. That was what we thought going into the season. And we were like, yeah, probably 15-20% of the time, Simons will be the leading scorer and JB will be second. This is very rare that we get Anthony Simons here as the leading scorer. So this is a night where it's like, okay, cool. Like Derek and Peyton are not, like they're scorers, but Anthony Simons has been labeled a scorer. He's going to be the number 2 scorer behind Jalen and at times be that number 1. And tonight was the night that I think, despite other moments, this was the night that I think a lot of people, myself included, have been waiting for.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of the Start Simons crowd come out after this game, right? He's like pound for pound is just a better scorer than Peyton Pritchard, right? He's one of the most talented scorers in the entire league. Pritchard, I think, has done enough to continue to deserve the starting spot on this team. And Anthony Simons is doing so well off the bench and is going to be a front runner for 6th man of the year. And when Jason Tatum inevitably comes back, you're going to want Simons to play with that second unit alongside Tatum to be that release valve for Jason Tatum. So I wouldn't give in to those urges to start Anthony Simons based off of the surge that we've seen out of him recently. Continue to allow him to do his thing off the bench. Don't now relegate Pritchard to the bench and completely like lose his confidence because he's done well this season. Tonight he was a non-factor, as you said, but he's going to have those games where he can't get his shot off because he's a little bit undersized, right? But I think it's good to have a guy like Simons who can take stock of the game and give the game what it needs, right? Coming in off the bench, I think that, and they talked about it a little bit on the broadcast tonight, like it's important to have a guy who's talented enough to say, oh, I can lay back, or, oh, I need to insert myself. Peyton Pritchard doesn't have that talent level. He can't come off the bench and say, oh, I need to go takeover mode, but he can find his rhythm throughout a game and find his spots, right? So I do think it makes a lot more sense to keep Simons off the bench just to kind of preempt that conversation.
Yeah, and I think the nights that you need it, like tonight, where he plays, a little over 34 minutes, you got it. And then the nights where, to your point, it's a little bit more passive. He's playing 23 minutes, and you're more like, hey, you're going to get 6 open threes. We need you to knock down 4 of them, right? And that's more of his role than it is the takeover guy. Like, I think that is kind of perfect, especially when you look ahead at if Tatum comes back. Like, it even makes even more sense, I think, to that point. And you've said all season long, like, I really want to see Simons play with Tatum. And I think that's a really interesting combo. So this is the Anthony Simons game. There's no doubt about it. Celtics down, I think down as much as 19 early. It's funny, Greg, as I mentioned before, I didn't get a chance to watch most of the first half. Have you ever seen on League Pass, they have like those catch up with key plays?
Yeah.
I've never used that before, but it's like, you know what? It's just halftime, second half, it just starts like, I'm not going to be able to watch. Let me at least catch up with these, see what these key plays are. First half was so bad for the Celtics. It gave me 12 highlights. 10 of them were for the Miami Heat. Was that accurate in summing up the first half?
They came out just completely flat. Jalen was awful in the first half. Derek White wasn't any better. Peyton Pritchard was a no-show. Kata was getting cooked off the dribble. Bam just came out and destroyed us in the first quarter. And it was one of those games, like, Jalen hasn't been good since the Clippers game, right? I think he might be dealing with a little bit of a knee thing, or maybe it's just fatigue from carrying the team like on his back the entire season, but he doesn't have the same pop that he had. And I did notice.
I was gonna say, is this not the most Jalen thing ever, though? Like, been fighting for the proper recognition for so long, right? Like, always feeling like he's never getting his flowers. Right after that 50-point game, literally every national, local, every podcast was just, how good is Jaylen Brown? Jaylen Brown, the MVP. Jaylen Brown, no doubt first team. Like, maybe he's like the is he better than Jason Tatum crowd was back at it again. And since then, it's kind of been a little pumpkinish. Of course, we're not going to jump there after 4 games since then, but the turnovers are up. Some of the decisions are more questionable. So maybe it's an injury. I don't know, but it's the most Jaylen Brown thing ever.
But I think there's a reason why they sat him the other night, right, against the Pacers. It's like he's done so much for this team. You need to find games for him to sit. The Pacers play such a physical style. It's so up and down. That would have been really taxing on his body. And you saw the after effects of Peyton Pritchard and Derek White tonight, having to carry the load without Jaylen Brown against the Pacers. Now in this game tonight, they have nothing, right? Offensively, they had nothing. Derek White made the Derek White plays in the fourth quarter, but like, there was one point where Simons is cooking. Derek White gets an open 3 off of like a miscommunication by the Heat defense, and he shoots it and he bricks it, right? And I texted Phil as we're texting to the game, and I was like, yo, D White needs to chill out. Like, this is not your game, bro. This is not your moment. Don't fuck around right now. Just get the ball to Simons. Keep it simple. They have 2 defensive liabilities on the court in Hero and the Lithuanian kid. So
Kunis, I don't know how you say his name, but
whatever his name is, just go at them. Like, they did such a good job of bringing Sam Hauser into the action, where he would come up from the baseline, come up right through the middle and set that second screen so that you would force one of the weaker defenders onto Simons. And then they put Wiggins on Simons, and they decided to do the same thing with Jaylen Brown. They're like, okay, like, we don't need to mess around there. Wiggins is too handsy. Simons has a loose handle. Let's get him out of the play. Jaylen Brown, now you can cook against Tyler Hero, and that's what we saw to close the game.
Yeah, this is a really nice win, given just, obviously avoiding a 3-game losing streak. The way that it started, it felt like it was just gonna be one of those nights, right? And you needed the spark, and of course, Anthony Simons provided it. But I think another guy that we need to shout out here, I think Luka Garza needs a shout out. Like Luka Garza has been playing really, really well.
Good. He's good. He's good. And the fact that, they mentioned it on the broadcast a couple times to Caitlin Clark, referencing that Luka Garza can shoot, and she knew he could shoot back at Iowa, right? I can't believe he's shooting over 50% from three this year.
It's pretty wild.
It's blowing my mind, man. And if he can shoot above 45% from three, which is a crazy number, but even above 40% from three on those pick and pop above the break, top of the key threes, like he's now a real NBA player. I've been texting with people all year, people asking me like, what do you think Luka Garza is? And I've said this on the pod, like, I don't think he's ever going to have a meaningful playoff moment. And I think I'm just wrong. I think like you were wrong on Anthony Simons, like after the first couple months, and you're coming around on Anthony Simons, and how could you not? Like, it's the same thing for me. How could I not come around on Luka Garza? I do think there were moments tonight where I would have liked to have seen the Celtics throw out Xavier Tillman or throw out Amari Williams, just because Garza was getting cooked on defense. Kata was getting cooked on defense, just for something else out there, or go small, right? With Jalen at the 5, with Ugo, Jordan Walsh, Simons, and White. Like, maybe we'll see that lineup out there. But they ended up going small with Garza at the 5, Hauser, Brown, White, and Simons. And that lineup was great, man. The offensive versatility of that team is just crazy.
Yeah, and I think Gar's on the offensive boards, man. Like, even, I think he got credit for, I'm looking at it right here, I think 3 tonight. There's several more where he's either just keeping the possession alive. It's a ball that's going out of bounds off Miami because of his positioning. Like, it's just like that number doesn't do it justice to what he does on the offensive board to give the Celtics more possessions. To, Joe's biggest thing is, right, like, we need to win the shot battle, right? Celtics win tonight 91-87 if you're just looking at straight up field goal attempts that you get up. And Luka Garza is so key to that, especially since he's gotten back in the rotation. Like, he was like, that's the thing you got to remember is flashback, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, he was straight up out of the rotation. We weren't seeing Luka Garza at all.
Yeah, right before the West Coast trip.
Yeah. And since he's come back, he's done nothing but make an impact. Going into the season, like from the preseason, I thought, he'd be fine as a regular season guy. He's like an 82 game guy. I think of him as, a back end, number 5 starter, if you're talking baseball, or maybe like the long relief guy that just eats innings for you, and he's starting to be a little bit more than that. Like he's certainly
little John Burkett-y.
Yeah, something to that extent. Like, you're gonna throw him out there every 5 days, and hey,
a little Aaron Seeley.
Ooh, Aaron Seeley, that's a good pull. A little Jeff Supani, maybe. We're
Jeff
getting somewhere in that.
Yeah,
we're getting $180 out of him this season, right? We're getting 180 innings. Like, and he's probably gonna have a 4.5 ERA. Like, he's not the ace, but he's gonna get us through, and he's gonna have some moments. And Luke is certainly that. We'll see if we still think like, can he be a true rotation guy playoffs? I think that's still a question, but I think it's a lot more. So it's something that you're getting closer to being okay with based on his play, right? So Luka Garza, you definitely deserve, a shout out for this game. And looking at this box score, Greg, it is really tough to imagine a game where you're going to get 2 of 11 from Pritchard and White, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, Celtics can win a game like that. And they just found a way. I think the defense in that second half was a big part of it, right? Just as far as bringing some more energy. And we pointed out Simons already. I think obviously, Ugo was a little bit of that too. Jordan Walsh, a little bit of that too. Like, there's different guys that you can point to. But overall, I think this is just a really, really impressive win. Do you have anything else that you want to hit on the game itself?
Yeah, and I think that the defense in the first quarter, the bench came in and they really did a good job of picking up the starters, because I think the Celtics were down 27-8 or 27-9 early in the game. And Joe was like, all right, I need my energy guys. And the energy guys did a really good job of bringing the Celtics back, where at the end of the first quarter, I think it was just a 10-point game. It was right around that mark. Maybe it was 11. But the game was hanging on the balance, right? Where he's like, we just might get blown out by 50 tonight. And
it was 19 was the largest lead in that first quarter,
which is a crazy number, right?
For a quarter, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 28-9 or whatever it was, right? And the bench comes in, Jordan Walsh makes some plays, Ugo makes some plays, Anthony Simons gets hot, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have a game now. And for a moment, I was like, do I go downstairs because I'm at Danielle's uncle's house? Like, shout out Uncle Donald, and I'm like, they're watching a TV show, they're watching a movie. Do I just like go put the game away? We'll talk about trade rumors and whatever, and I can fake it till I make it on a game where you get blown out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to hang in there, and the Celtics hang in there with me. And then Anthony Simons full takeover mode this entire game, and it was the first time that Anthony Simons had two great halves. Right. And we've been talking about this, how he would have a moment where he would carry the team for a quarter. You think of that Orlando game earlier in the year where he had like 20 points in a quarter, and then all of a sudden he does nothing in the second half, partially to do with Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black being like, nah, he ain't touching the ball anymore. Right. But
Anthony Black
he didn't do anything. He has been good. He has been good. Magic, not so much. Anthony Black, yes. But Anthony Simons had a great two halves, great 48 minutes of action tonight. And it's everything that the Celtics needed. So we didn't go on our first 3-game losing streak since that 0-3 start.
Yeah. And I feel like a loss tonight, two things. One, I was thinking about this when it felt like this was going to be a loss. I think Miami might be the team I hate losing to the most. I fucking hate losing to Miami.
They suck, dude. I hate the
It's just, it's like them, the Lakers, and the Sixers. Those are the top three. I'd have to really think about what order, but I hate losing to those three teams. So that's one. And then two, this did feel like a little bit of a teetering point potentially for like raising some red flags. Like, all right, like we lost to Denver without Jokic and wasn't a great Jaylen Brown game. Spurs game, Indiana game, we're complaining about the refs. Indiana's one of the worst teams in the league. Of course, no Jaylen Brown, but, like it felt like this was a game that if the Celtics, especially the way, not even just the result, but the way that it had started, it would have been like, all right, we hyped the Celtics up for 2 weeks. Maybe we were all wrong. Like it felt like that was potentially coming. And now you've kind of settled that.
Yeah. And you know who else I think needs some flowers tonight is Sam Hauser. I don't have the box score up. Can you read me his stat line tonight?
Yeah, Sam played 30. Yeah, Sam was actually really good. You're right. We did need to give Sam a little bit of shout out here. He played 30 minutes, closed the game out, 6 of 11 from the field, 3 of 8 from 3, finished with 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. This is a really good game for Sam. And actually, Sam was making some good decisions late, just like not force. Sam does really good about like not forcing it, just making the smart play. And there was even one time where you mentioned like Derek White was just kind of in a different world tonight at certain points where Sam had the ball and I was like, and Derek just was like, come on. Like, just like we're like running down the park. Come on. I was like, Derek, get the fucking ball, dude. You're the point guard. Go get the ball and like get it across half court. But shout out to Sam. Sam was good in this game as well.
Defensively, I thought he was great. And I think this is a really good natural transition point to the trade rumors, because when you think about Anthony Simons and his $25 million contract, Sam Hauser, I think he's a little over 10, like 11 or 12 million. Those are the two guys when you think about needing to go out and get somebody that of real value. Those are the contracts that you have to piece together in order to get someone near that $40 million range. So it's just really interesting tonight in this game. Those are the two guys that I felt stood out more than anybody else on the floor.
Yeah, great transition. So let's get into it here. So it is NBA trade rumor season, January 15th. We're recording this obviously right after the game. It is January 15th. Basically, everybody in the NBA is available to be traded. That's why you're seeing so many rumors that are popping up left and right. Celtics, not immune to this. Celtics, is especially on this one that we're going to talk about to lead with here, I found very surprising. I think it was earlier this week that it came up that Jaren Jackson Jr. is someone that the Celtics have been whispering about. If you're watching here on YouTube or on Twitter Live, you can see Greg giving 2 authoritative thumbs down.
Listen,
to
man,
this.
I want to find somewhere to purchase more thumbs so that I can give it more thumbs down. Like that's how out I am on this.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. And so Jaren Jackson Jr., of course, the Grizzlies are kind of in this like in-between state of, are they going to sell off or what are they going to do? So let's talk about it, Greg, because I think you and I probably have very similar opinions just based off what you texted me. Neither of us are really on board for this Jaren Jackson trade. Now, you mentioned kind of the key piece to it, right? He makes $35 million right now. So this is why it's the perfect transition. Because if you're making a trade, Simons and Hauser are the salaries you have to use to be able to get there. You can't do it with Simons. And then even if you tried to piece it together, like middle of the season right now, it's way too hard. Too many guys you got to cut and move around. It's just not a realistic way to do it. Even if you were like, whoa, wait a minute, we can add Boucher, Tillman, whoever else end of the bench, that we can piece it together. Like that's not really how it's going to work. If they were to make a Jaren Jackson trade, no doubt the salaries are going to be those two. Then it comes down to one of the young wings, draft picks. You kind of figure it out from there. But let's just start with Jaren Jackson Jr., the player, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see this. I'm not a fan. He's a guy where, let me ask you this, Greg. He's been defensive player of the year, been a 2-time All-Star. How many times in his career do you think he's averaged over 7 rebounds?
I'm going to go 1.
You lose, my friend. The answer is 0. 0 times has this man, who's a power forward center, 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet, defensive player of the year. Yes, he is a very good rim protector. I got to give him. He's not a bad player, but to not be able to average over 7 rebounds, all I think about with Jaren Jackson was that one FIBA year. I've gotten some of the FIBA years mixed up, but when seemingly every game he had 2 rebounds, and it was like, dude, are you like? I can't stand how little he rebounds. It's like it's one of the things that annoys me so much about him. There's other things I don't love, but that's one of the biggest reasons I just don't want Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, the player himself is okay, right? It's just when you think about what the team would be after this trade, he goes from making $35 million a year this year into his contract extension where he's making close to $50 million a year. I think the average annual value is around $50 million. So you have 3 guys now
for 4 years, by the way. It hasn't started yet. There's 4 years on the deal.
Exactly. So you have Tatum, you have Brown, you have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Derek White. Like that's a really nice 4, but you have almost no flexibility for anybody else on your roster. And you're definitely going to be going into the second apron again, right? So like all the work that the Celtics have done to get themselves in a good cap space, just to get a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., who to me doesn't move the needle in terms of making them a championship contender. I just don't see it. If it was Jaren Jackson Jr. and he was only making 35 million and it didn't go up to 50, I think I'd be on board with it. It's just you see around the league all these guys that are getting paid these max contracts that aren't worth it. Now, a lot of them are the smaller guard types, right? The Anthony Simons types, the Trey Youngs of the world, the John Morants of the world, the Bradley Beals of the world, like all those guys that are getting overpaid. At least with Jaren Jackson Jr., you're getting a big man, right? Who is 26 years old, entering into his prime, can shoot the 3, as you said, former defensive player of the year, and seemingly makes a lot of sense roster-wise, but he doesn't stay on the floor, right? He gets hurt a lot, and he also just doesn't stay on the floor because he fouls a lot. So to me,
I forgot about how much he fouls. I forgot. Oh my God, that shit irritates me so much. And the thing is, like with his 3-point shot, it's incredibly streaky. So he's technically a stretch 5. Here's his 3-point marks over the last 5 years: 36%, 37%, 32%, 35%, 32%. Like it's theoretically there, the threat of it, but it's also not entirely reliable. And
it's
as
ugly
you
as shit.
yeah, it's not pretty to look at. And as you mentioned before, like whether this is a short-term view on this trade for just this year or even long-term, when you factor in Simons and Hauser, and who knows if Simons will be back, but Hauser has a really sweet deal that's, going to be here for a couple of years. Those are 2 dead-eye knockdown, write it off. Whatever year we're playing, they're shooting 40%, right? Don't even worry about it. And then you're bringing in Jaren Jackson as a kind of stretch 5. Like that's just not going to do it for me. And his contract's so bad, Greg. I was thinking about this. I was like, all right, what if just hypothetically all we had to give up was like if there was, and we do have some trade exceptions, none large enough to fit him, but like say we had a trade exception large enough to fit Jaren Jackson, and all we gave up was like 2 protected firsts and some seconds, like just straight up draft picks. Would I still say yes? Would I say yes or no to this trade? I think I would still say no. The contract's that bad. I still
it's a bad contract.
I can't imagine 4 years at over 205 million. And you nailed the point of like, there's just no maneuverability despite that core four. And you could throw Pritchard in there because he's on 3 more years of a really sweet deal. It's a nice 5. That's a really nice 5. But, and I can hear people saying this now, that if there are people out there that want to do this, the counter is, well, then you can always just flip him later. I'm like, well, if his value now is so low that we're like talking ourselves into it at 35 million, at 50 million with more years left, like you're not going to be able to flip him. So in my mind, if the Celtics, which Brad's too smart, I just can't see him making this trade. I think if you make a move for Jaren Jackson, you are laying the groundwork for a future Derek White and or Jaylen Brown trade. That's what that move does for me. Because then that's how you're going to get value. And exactly,
I'm out.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Thank you. No,
it's gross. It's gross. So yeah, so that was a rumor that really caught me off guard. That I've had a hard time. I've tried to play devil's advocate to myself, and I think you and I we can't do it. I don't think it can be done with that rumor. No. And I'm glad it's
just
out there because and I'm glad it's out there because usually whatever is out there vocally is probably not actually what's going to happen because Brad operates in the shadows. So that's probably a good thing for us that's out there. Now, let's talk about another guy.
Can I ask you a question real quick, though, Will? I'm just interested in how you see these players. What if the same deal was available for Evan Mobley?
Which deal? The deal for with Simons, Hauser, and one of the young wings and some picks or something. I mean, that to me, that's totally different. I would 100% do that. As part of that's Evan Mobley's. He's still 22, I think, right? And even though, I think we might have talked about this pretty recently. Like he's been a little disappointing this year. Evan Mobley still has, you've seen it, you just haven't seen it consistently enough. And this is where I'd kind of bank on, like, I've got my issues at times with I don't love like Joe in certain situations. Joe getting the most out of a guy to like turn on full time, like kind of like we saw with Simon's confidence, and it kind of this relationship is built over time. The relationship he built with Pritchard over time, the way that you've seen Kata grow, like Mobley, who's more talented than all those guys. Like I think you see a little nasty streak in Mobley every once in a while. It's just not there enough for him with the level of talent. And so I would bank on being able to bring that out of him. And I just think he's more talented than Jaren Jackson. So I would do for sure the trade for Mobley, but not Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, and like the Cavs would never do that deal. I was just interested to see how you thought of Mobley versus how you thought of Jackson.
Yeah, I have Mobley slightly higher than Jaren Jackson. Part of that's age as well, too, about 5 years younger.
Same page.
But another rumor that's actually, a nice little nostalgia twist that did come out recently is that the Celtics might have interest in our guy, old friend, Rob Williams, a.k.a. Lob Williams. Rob wearing Lob, one of the greatest moments in this podcast history. And I got to get your opinion here. What would you think about a Robert Williams reunion to the Celtics?
So how do we get that deal done contract-wise? What have you seen out there?
So I haven't seen anything about any structure. It's just me kind of looking at it myself. There's kind of two different paths to it, right? So we do have a traded player exception that he would fit into. So if you go that route, you could, and again, this would depend what Portland is looking to get back. Like, but if they're just looking to dump him and just get like a couple of picks because they're like, listen, we want Klingon to play, we want Yang Hansen, the big Chinese kid, we want him to play. Like, we're just whatever. We're good on Rob. We'll just take whatever we can get. Like, that's the path for me that makes the most sense. Otherwise, he makes 13 million. Sam Hauser's the answer. And unless you think you're super close, so this is for me, this becomes, Tatum's coming back and you really think that the East is this bad and it's this open that you're willing to gamble on, 3 months of Robert Williams' health, then maybe you do it. But I can't imagine that trading, 3 years of Sam Hauser on his contract for 1/2 season of Rob is probably going to be worth it. Like, it doesn't seem like a good enough gamble.
Yeah, I think it has to be the traded player exception there. And like maybe there's another piece that gets moved, so we get a little bit more salary relief that's not Sam Hauser. But I'd love to see Rob back in Boston. It stinks that his career hasn't turned into anything since leaving Boston because of the injuries. And I think he would welcome it. He loved his time here in Boston. Boston loves him as a player and as a person. So I would be open to it. I wouldn't want him to start over Keita just because I
Yeah.
like what I've seen out of Keita, and you don't want to put in an injury prone player into the starting lineup because you might just have to take him right back out. And now Keita's head is all messed up from having gotten moved to the bench and all that, right?
Yeah.
So if he's coming in there and he's just playing 8 to 12 minutes a game, sign me up. I think that's all you need out of Robert Williams to fill in like the moments tonight where Keita didn't have it. Luka Garza, although he played well enough, there were moments where it's like, we just need something else out there on the court. I think that something else could be Robert Williams, and that's a pretty good something else.
Well, especially defensively, right? Because that's where you can kind of balance it out. But let me ask you this, Greg. He's been in Portland now 2.5 years. How many games overall do you think he's played in 2.5 years?
Well, he's been pretty available this year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 40.
Not a bad guess. 54. Yeah, it's been 54 games over 2.5 years. And to the point of what makes it interesting this year is he's played the majority of those 54 games have come this year. He's played 28. He's been in 28 games this year, playing right around 16 minutes, 6 points. I mean, pretty impressively, he's got 6 rebounds and about a block and a half, only playing 16 minutes. Like that's pretty solid, return on your investment. So I think, if they go the traded player exception, it's really the only way that makes sense. I just don't think, even with Tatum coming back, you can't expect Tatum to be 100%. Like it doesn't make sense to go all in on a 1-year gamble. And then, he's an unrestricted free agent. I mean, maybe you bring him back, but you might be able to do that anyways, even if you don't trade for him. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's like a cheap signing in the offseason. So I think it's an interesting rumor. It's fun to think about. We love Rob. Rob loves Boston. Like it would be a fun night. The night he comes back, it would be electric, right? Like the crowd would go nuts. So that would be a fun moment. But end of the day, unless that traded player exception plays a role, I don't really see that. The other rumors are kind of the guys that we've already talked about. So I don't know. We need to go too deep into it. It's the Zubac, it's the Daniel Gafford, Day'Ron Sharpe. The one thing I did want to bring up with specifically Zubac, because this is where I think it's a very big difference between him and Jaren Jackson, is they both have contracts that go beyond this year. We mentioned how atrocious Jaren Jackson's contract is. Zubac is the exact opposite of that, right? Where he's got this year, next year at 19 million, following year at 20 million. So essentially 40 million for the next 2 years. That's a really, really good deal. And it's probably one of the reasons why it would be a little surprising, even though as the Clippers are trying to claw back into the play-in.
Yeah, they're right there. They're the 11. They're number 11 right now. I think they're like 1 game out. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. So I think we've kind of missed the boat on Zubac. I think the Clippers are going to try and keep the team together so that they don't have their pick go to the Thunder and it be a top 5 pick.
So I think that's the case too, which is why I want to ask, and this is where I think, as we talked about Anthony Simons' value, when he has a night like this, now let's say the Clippers between now and the trade deadline going a little bit more of a skid, he becomes more valuable. And maybe that's someone they like, because I think he's going to probably price himself out of coming back to Boston if he continues to play like this. Like, I don't think it's going to be feasible to bring him back at a number that he's going to get just bigger numbers elsewhere. Maybe the Clippers want to pay that. And so they want to get him in, get his bird rights, yada, yada. So this is the question that I'll, and this would be dependent on the Clippers reverting back to their early season form and losing some more games. How aggressive would you get trying to get Zubac, knowing that, he's making 18 million. Theoretically, you could do this without Simons. It's not going to happen without Simons, I don't think. So it's probably Zubac and whoever they piece together for, 6 million, whatever. It's Simons. And then how much draft capital and which of the wings would you or would you not be willing to part with is my question.
I'm not trading Ugo. Like there's just
okay,
not a deal.
Kind of where that's the biggest part that I'm asking.
He has too much potential, man. Like his ability to impact games at 19 years old and have the physical frame that he does with the biggest hands in draft combine history and all that stuff. Like he's the type of guy that I think could be a Celtic for more than a decade. and could grow into like a really good player. I see a lot of Denny Advia in his game. I think he could be a better shooter than Denny Advia. He's not as big as Advia is, but he's 19. There's no reason why he might not grow another inch or two, right? And if Ugo ends up at 6'7.5", 6'8", like that's a really scary player to deal with. So Ugo is where I draw the line on somebody like Zubac, but like the picks, the draft capital, and like all the Jordan Walshes, the Baylor Shireman's, Josh Mina, like all those guys, they're expendable. Ugo to me is untouchable right now, unless it's like what the people who believe Jaren Jackson is. Like if there's a guy,
if
like
an actual
that
player who is the right value for that, if that,
like then you throw out Ugo, but it's not Jaren Jackson, right? It's not Zubac. It's someone who like I didn't even see coming. I'm like, oh shit, the Celtics got this player. That would be where I would include Ugo. But I just love Ugo. Like, don't trade Ugo. What are we doing?
Yeah. I love Ugo too. I definitely wouldn't do it for Jaren Jackson. I would consider it for Zubac, and mostly because of how good that contract is. And I really think in the NBA, it's so hard to think of windows beyond 2 to 3 years. You know what I mean? Like things just change so quickly, whether it's injuries, whether it's the landscape of the league, whatever it might be. And if you let's just walk down this hypothetical. It's Simons, it's Ugo, and whatever. Let's just say 2 picks. That the picks don't really matter for this particular conversation. You set yourself up for the next 2 to 3 years where you have Pritchard, White, the Jays, Zubac. Kata's at least back for next year. I was thinking earlier today, like I really would love for them to do kind of a Hauser Pritchard type deal with Kata. Like, hey, you got 1 more year left, but let's lock you in at like 4 for 32 or 35 or something. Like, let's go do that. Maybe you do that. So you got Kata. You still have Hauser in this particular scenario. You would probably have Walsh or Shireman, at least one of them. And now, like that's a pretty good roster for the next 2 to 3 years. And my thing is, as much as I like Ugo, the thing is, when we're thinking of Tatum coming back, not just this year, but for the next couple years as he gets back to being 100%, we've praised Kata a bunch all season. We just praised Luka Garza. Filling that void at that center spot. We talked about maybe Rob in the offseason's a nice, like, hey, maybe let's just take a chance. He costs $2-3 million. Like, it's going to be really hard to find a good center at the right value. And so if you can get Zubac, as much as I like Ugo, I may take a risk on Zubac for that 2 to 3 year window. And maybe that bites you in the ass later. Potentially. There's no doubt about it. But I think it'd be something you really got to think about.
You have to think Zubac in a series against Jokic is going to be able to shut Jokic down or hold his own against Jokic. You got to think that in a series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, he's going to be such a problem playing drop defense that he has like a Wemby-like effect bothering Shea, right? If he's not that guy, then I don't think you do the deal. Probably overvaluing Ugo, but I love him, man. I just think he has so much potential at 19 years old. Like I feel about Ugo the way that I felt about the Jays when they were young. I don't think he has the potential of them, but I don't think that nobody saw Jaylen Brown becoming this, right? I don't think Ugo has like the natural ability that those two guys had, but in terms of where he could be at age 25, I want to see it in Boston. Think about Aaron Nesmith, right? When like we loved Aaron Nesmith, we wanted Aaron Nesmith to be in Boston. He wasn't getting the opportunity, but there were like these moments where like, man, like I don't want to trade Nesmith. I just really like him. I never felt about Nesmith anywhere near what I felt about Ugo. And look what Nesmith has turned out to be. Like Nesmith turned out to be like a really nice player there. I think Ugo has way more potential than a Nesmith. So I just want to keep him, man.
Yeah. Do you know what's an interesting what if as you were going? Because I also thought about the Nesmith comparison for Ugo earlier today. It's really interesting to think about like if Nesmith had been given the same opportunity as Ugo to like freely develop, right? Because that was the biggest issue with Nesmith is like we were so good that it was like, you just got to come in and just do the 3-and-D thing. Don't do any of the other like mistakes that are gonna eventually help you to become a better player. Whereas like Ugo has a little bit more freedom to to operate. Not that he's like handling the ball a ton, you know what I mean? But like Ugo doesn't have the same responsibility that was kind of put on Neesmith, because we just desperately needed Neesmith to fit this role, and we couldn't get him in there because he just wasn't ready for it, right? And he needed to go to Indiana, have some time to be able to fail, and then you saw, I mean, one of the greatest games I've ever watched was that game 1 of the conference finals last year, and Neesmith went bananas, hitting like 6 threes in MSG. Like, it was crazy. And so it is interesting to think about what the opportunity Neesmith, if he had a similar scenario to Ugo, what that would have looked like. And it's, yeah, I do think there are some parallels between the two.
Yeah, so I'm not trading Ugo, but Zubac is great. I think that you're right about the contract being probably the best value contract for a center in the league, like a high-end center in the league.
Yeah.
But then you think about like Keita making, what was he making, $3 million this year?
It's like $2 million.
Barely.
Yeah, it's real low.
Like, he probably has the best value contract of any center in the league, only making $2 million, and Garza's making around that much too, right? So the Celtics, the Celtics are getting,
they're getting
so
out of their
much
$4
value.
$4 million front court.
That's great value for that front court.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm sure more rumors are going to come out here. Again, today is the day where officially basically everybody in the NBA is available to be traded. So I think obviously this is the time of year where what happens, even though we're in like the dog days of the NBA season, what happens, between now and the first week of February tells people a lot about what their direction is the rest of the year. So we're going to see. I think we were kind of chatting about this in a group text, Greg. I think someone's I think there's going to be at least one or two like really like head scratching moves, whether it's for Jaren Jackson or Ja or for Levine. Like, somebody's making a move that they probably shouldn't make. I don't think it's going to be the Celtics, but I'm excited to see who it is.
Oh yeah. Someone's going to trade for Kuminga, right? He just demanded his trade. So I think you'll see.
I love when guys who get
like
consistent DMP coaches decisions are like demanding trades. It's great.
It's so funny. Who's the guy on the Sixers that did that?
Oh, dude, who was it that did?
Korkmaz. It was Korkmaz. Remember, somebody said I look like Korkmaz. Someone was like, "Oh, you look like Derek White and Korkmaz." No, somebody on the podcast. Some like random person typed in like, "Oh, you look like Korkmaz and Derek White." I was like, "What the fuck?" No, but yeah, that's funny. Combo. I like Kuminga. I want to see him get an opportunity. It pisses me off because Steve Kerr is doing to Jonathan Kuminga to what he did to Jason Tatum in the Olympics. It's the same shit. So fuck you, Steve Kerr. Let Jonathan Kuminga go somewhere and develop into whatever player he's supposed to be, because he's playing like all these role players over Jonathan Kuminga when he has a team that needs Jonathan Kuminga. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's always been a weird vibe there. And now the value for him, I can imagine, is not much because they don't play him. So I can't imagine what they're going to get back. So we'll see what happens there. And there'll be plenty of transactions, I'm sure, between now and the deadline for us to talk about. But that's going to do it for this episode here of Green with Envy. Celtics win 119-114. Coming up, Celtics are in Atlanta on Saturday, and then it is MLK Day on Monday. They're going to round out that NBC lineup against the Pistons on Monday night. So we'll have something for you guys. I don't know if it'll be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. With the holiday, we'll figure it out. We'll let you know, but we will have you guys covered. As always, appreciate you guys rocking with us and following us across all the socials. But we will catch you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will catch you guys next week. Peace.